I think we have just heard the most honest and transparent statements ever by the US mainstream media, and as a guy who likes to call it like I see it and try to be as honest and as unbiased as I can, we have to call out when the mainstream media gets things right, and in this moment it was Mika Brzezinski, a correspondent on the Morning Joe MSNBC show, whose father, by the way, is Zbigniew Brzezinski, a top corporatist globalist who used to be a presidential advisor, top of many secret societies, and yeah, also created Al-Qaeda and terrorists inside of Afghanistan in order to defeat the Russians in the 80s, but that's just some other context. He wrote The Grand Chessboard because he's really one of the top figures who's doing a lot of the pulling of the strings behind the scenes that you're not privy to. Now, Mika Brzezinski today came out and said this on her show.
Doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Mika. Thank you for being honest, at least in that moment, and letting the American people know what the real role of the U.S. mainstream media really is, and that is to manipulate the American public to what you and your overlords want them to think. Which brings me to a bigger point. In order to figure out what they want you to think, you have to understand who really controls them. And obviously, there are deep-rooted corporatist, globalist interests within the mainstream media, mega conglomerates with major interests not only that are driven by profit, but also power and control. And that's why intelligence agencies within the US government have made a concerted effort in order to control that narrative. And they've done it through secret programs like Operation Mockingbird that have been declassified. And now we're able to understand that the mainstream media not only hires individuals, not only writes headlines, but also pushes certain stories and censors others in order to push their agenda. Well, what is their agenda? We have seen people like Michael Flynn compromised by the mainstream media and intelligence agencies who wiretapped him and spied on his conversations and then leaked the information to the mainstream media, who used this as a push in order to get rid of this national security advisor who didn't want war with Russia, who is now replaced with someone who is more favorable towards conflict with Russia. We have seen them go after YouTube celebrities like PewDiePie, manipulate information and videos with shady editing in order to push an agenda that has ultimately cost his contract with Disney and ended his TV show that was supposed to be on YouTube. We have seen the mainstream media utterly destroy people like Milo Yiannopoulos, who not only lost his job, not only lost a speaking spot at CPAC, but also lost a book deal because of the mainstream media. And again, calling him out on dreadful, horrible comments that he made about child abuse. Now, I agree. People should be held accountable for what they advocate and what they say, especially on serious matters like child abuse. But if you're going to take that stance, why in the world hasn't there been a bigger backlash against people like Roman Polanski, who admittedly sexually abused children, or even Leah Dunham, who admitted it in her own book, where she sexually violated her own underage sister? But yet they're still controlling the outrage, and then people like Leah Dunham, they're still able to have successful working careers and even be a part of a presidential campaign. See, the mainstream media doesn't have any principles, any morals, any care or consideration for their truth, only their agenda, steamrolling anyone who stands in their way or their boss's way. Does this surprise me? No, because the mainstream media has always had a clear objective: to serve the very few, to serve the elite that use the most important aspect of human life, information, and the distribution of this information in order to benefit themselves. That's why we have seen them manipulate and coerce people to war like they did in Iraq. That's why when the bankers screwed everyone over in 2008, the mainstream media manipulated the situation so much in order to galvanize the American public, in order to give the bankers who screwed us a bonus and a pat on the back in the amount of $16 trillion. So yes, Mika Brzezinski's statements were very very correct, but they also are very telling, because the reason she's making those statements is to reiterate her control of what you think, and she's doing that because she is losing that control, because finally the people are able to communicate with each other and say, hold on, wait a minute here, and finally the distrust in media has hit an all-time low in the United States. But that does not mean that their influence is still not significant. It is undermined in some levels, but still one of the greatest threats that humanity ever faces. And that's why here I made it my own personal life mission, my own personal life goal, in order to destroy the mainstream media. And the way I want to do that is to do their job better and make them irrelevant. If you believe in this cause, support us on patreon.com/wearechange, where funds are being used in order to build a team of writers, of editors, of journalists all around the world who will willingly work for you in order to give you the most honest perspective that we can on real issues that should matter to everyone. Which, of course, these scumbag, latent, hypocritical, corporatist, soulless, brown-nosing, capitulating, unprincipled fucktards will never do.